My name is Christy Cobb. I serve as the Director of New District Engagement at Project Lead the Way, supporting schools and districts with their PLTW implementation plans. And I want to welcome you to PLTW Launch in Action. Today, we will welcome all of you from across the country to discover ways that PLTW can provide an exceptional learning experience for your students, deliver training and professional development for you, and to share how we make programs possible through various funding opportunities. Before we begin, I'll share a few tips on how to maximize your experience today. We have PLTW team members joining us today to moderate the chat. Please join the conversation, share your story, and ask questions by engaging with fellow participants and subject matter experts. If you have questions, please submit them through the Zoom chat. And don't worry if we aren't able to answer your question live today. We'll follow up after the webinar with additional information and answers. I also encourage you to use the chat area to message about the content and network with other attendees. Today, we'll provide a brief overview of Project Lead the Way launch and explore how it benefits you and your students. First, you'll hear directly from students about their experiences with PLTW Launch. Following that, a panel of teachers and administrators will discuss their successes as well as how they have implemented and funded their PLTW Launch programs. Next, we'll give you a glimpse of what it's like to be a part of a PLTW Launch classroom, and we'll also cover the steps for implementation and various funding options available for schools and districts. So you can still get started this school year if you choose. Finally, we'll wrap up by addressing any questions you may have. First, let me share a bit about the curriculum. You know better than anyone what your students need. PLTW Launch is a pre-K through 5 STEM curriculum that delivers the learning experience students need and the training that teachers want. Because it is created by teachers and led by educators, it fosters curiosity, enables a wider variety of students to shine, and builds cross-disciplinary skills. We hear these stories, and we also hear that it reinvigorates educators with a refreshed approach and flexible structure. How does this happen, though? The design and content of the PLTW Launch program empowers all students with an in-demand, transportable skills, such as problem solving, communication, collaboration, critical and creative thinking, and ethical reasoning, which are foundational to thriving in and out of the classroom. The 42 pre-K through 5 modules embedded and addressed standards include Common Core State Standards in ELA and Math, and SCTK K through 12 Computer Science Standards. PLTW Launch also provides full coverage of next generation science standards and was designed to intentionally connect to NGSS. PLTW Launch reinforces literacy and language acquisition, which is critical in early grades and supports learned math skills and practice through application set at the appropriate grade level. Students will be able to practice math and ELA in engaging ways, build confidence, and experience the answer to their own question, why do I need to learn this? And the program offers flexible and scalable implementation that meets schools' particular needs, with many schools being able to implement even within their current school year. We know that early and equitable access to engaging hands-on content reinforces language development through authentic learning. PLTW Launch supports this critical literacy and language acquisition in many ways, through story structure and expository text, through plot and analysis of main ideas and key details, and also PLTW Launch logs create experience-based opportunities for nonfiction writing and vocabulary development connected to each of the activities, projects, and problems. In addition to the literacy and language acquisition support, PLTW Launch also includes the integration of math in application. This provides opportunities for students to develop and reinforce math skills in context while seeing connections across multiple curriculum areas. In this example, you can see that kindergarten students have the opportunity to practice counting, writing numbers, and placing them on a number line after completing the project, which supports counting and cardinality standards. PLTW launch modules also support pathways in biomedical science, computer science, and engineering. Designed to meet your science learning needs, the curriculum also supports best practices in science education, ensuring an unmatched experience by combining three-dimensional learning, our unique problem-based instructional approach, and real-world applied learning. And to prepare educators to lead the learning and build their confidence in subject areas, we provide professional development. PLTW core training is designed to create dynamic learning experiences for educators through powerful and flexible instructional support, as well as ongoing professional community. Teachers take on the role of student, engage in an in-depth exploration of PLTW coursework, and gain invaluable experience to take back to their classrooms. PLTW Launch professional development builds confidence and comfort in teaching critical, but often unfamiliar topics. Additionally, PLTW provides learning opportunities following the initial training with PLTW Professional Development Suite. PD Suite gives all pre-K through 12 educators additional instructional and skill-based trainings to continue building student success. Now that we've provided a big picture of the PLTW Launch program, we want you to hear directly from some of our students. We were able to interview students about their PLTW Launch experience. While watching the interviews, keep an eye out for the transportable skills that these students possess.
I like to imagine myself as a scientist, and I'm pretty sure a couple of the kids in our class might become scientists one day due to her class because we learn a lot of cool things. Well, when I first got into her class, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done this before. And then when I kept doing it by steps, I liked it, and then that made me encouraged to join robotics.
This particular class is a lot more fun. We try more things a lot more often, and I like that about this close class.
Actually, I like robotics because she has robotics in her class. Building for me is really fun. We don't do building in my other classes.
That class is different because you can explore more things.
Currently, we're using the microscopes and seeing like diseases, different colors, different shapes. I think that's like the coolest part about them. It's like you can imagine your own self in your little scientist world.
I was thinking about the stuff that we do helped me learn stuff. I realized that I probably want to help people.
I just really like that we're just trying new things and building a bunch of different things.
When I feel Miss Chloe always encourages us to do better. You could learn from your mistakes. Even if we fail, she always just have your mind on the positive stuff. Okay, that's just the life of a scientist. When you fail, you keep going.
It's great. Just perfectly great.
These are just a small sample of the variety of stories of impact we continually hear from students. We're happy they could share their stories, and we thank them for their time so you could hear them today. And I want to go ahead and thank you and give a thank you so much to our panelists for being here to share their stories with us. I want to briefly introduce all of you, and then we'll dive into our questions. I'd first like to introduce Drew Bortner. He's the Director of Curriculum and Instructional Technology in Gull Lake Community Schools in Michigan. Next up, we have Tanji Stringfellow. She is a teacher in St. Louis Public Schools out there in Missouri. And finally, we have Jennifer Wren Stevens, and she is a K through 8 STEM instructional coach at Horry County Schools in South Carolina. And thank you so much for each of you joining us today. I'd love to kick off our panel discussion today by having you all answer that first question of what was the initial motivation for bringing PLTW Launch to your school or district, and what problems were you solving for that PLTW could help with? I'll start off with you, Tanji, and then go to Drew, and then Jennifer, so the conversation can keep rolling. We're waiting. Let's start with Drew. We'll start with Drew. Hey, it's school. Announcements happen. We
Perfect
understand
flexibility, right?
that.
I like the
It's the
announcements
real
coming
world,
on from
everyone.
Tanya. Well, thank you, Christy, for the opportunity to be here and welcome everybody to this webinar. Some of the initial motivation for us at Gully Community Schools was in line with our district school improvement plan of read, write, speak with purpose. We've tried to embed engaging practices for kids to be able to demonstrate their learning in several ways. What Christy said earlier, the slide about the C's of technology, it allows us to create, communicate, collaborate, and solve real-world problems. The real world problem that we were trying to look at, and our school board was very much focused on, was coding experiences for students, but those that are aligned throughout our kindergarten all the way up through middle school and high school. So Project Lead the Way lends itself well with the various modules that you can implement, but those are some of the areas that we were looking at was engagement, and then more specifically, those coding aspects. So I'll pass it back to Tanji to see if the announcements are done and she's ready to share the first question.
Thank you so much. And those are the bus announcements. But I was excited. I'm Tanji Stringfellow, fourth grade teacher this year. I'm excited about Project Lead the Way. I love it. I had an opportunity to actually come in and pilot in the district that I was in last year, solving two problems. Our students were low performing in ELA, and science was just nowhere in our curriculum. 30 minutes, maybe twice a week is science, but our fifth graders are tested on our high stakes test. So I saw an opportunity to kind of kill two birds with one stone with the three-dimensional learning. So I dived right in. My work with Project Lead the Way, I love it because immediately, and I'll just say I started with the majority of my students are below basic in reading. And when I started implementing our program, immediately I saw my students' critical thinking skills improve, and they made the connections, and they loved the literacy, the anchor activity when they introduced to the problem, starting off with reading, and so able to bring the ELA in during that time. And so I'm just noticing my children grow immediately, instantly, and thank you. And my students started immediately improving, start comparing the data to the other teachers, and it's like, wow, what are you doing? And then teachers started coming in, parents started loving it, because they also can see immediate changes in their students' learning. Yeah.
Thank you, Tanji. Jennifer, what led to bringing PLTW to your district?
Hi, Christy. Thank you for this opportunity. We first noticed that there was a need for the problem-solving, critical thinking skills, hands-on projects, because we had started with Project Lead the Way in high school and in middle school, and the students kind of had a gap when they went into middle school, and they were excited about the programs that were being offered, but when they got in there was a deficit. They needed more of the, again, the hands-on applications, problem-solving skills, critical thinking skills. We also noticed that there was a huge need for them to start looking at careers. Yes, it's important for them to be exposed in high school, but if they don't have an idea of what they're getting themselves into, there was a lot of kids that would go in and then come back out of the program. So we wanted them to have a baseline so that they would be well educated consumers when they got to the different pathways, career pathways in high school. And then another thing that our whole district has really been working on is to increase student engagement. We just need to be able to get some of the essential skills that Project Lead the Way offers to get our student engagement where it needs to be.
Thank you so much for each of you sharing a bit about what led to Project Lead the Way coming into your districts and spreading across your districts and schools as well. It's really inspiring just to hear some of the commonalities as well as the differences that led it to there. Let's continue thinking about how Project Lead the Way has had an impact, especially on your students. Jennifer, I'll stick with you, and then Drew, I'm going to come to you and just to hear a little bit about that impact, not only on your students, but I'd love to also hear about your teachers, if you could add that in there too.
Okay, so along the same lines, as to why we thought we needed it and wanted to implement Project Lead the Way, what we started seeing with students was we did get that increased engagement. Students loved STEM, and they loved being able to put their hands on materials and manipulatives and look and see for themselves, how to solve problems, how to think critically. And then that was the second fold. We started seeing students were able to take the critical thinking and problem solving skills, not just back, because we offer Project Lead the Way as a resource or a special. And the skills that they were learning in specials, they were taken back to their regular classroom. And then the teachers there, they started noticing that students were doing a little more of grabbing onto their own learning in the classroom because they were really thinking about, now that I can critically think about this, now that I can problem solve, this question isn't something that I just have to pull out of my brain. It's actually something I can think about. It's something I can take what I already know and come up with the answer myself. I don't have to remember every single thing. One of the things, well, I'm sorry, just to back up for the students one more time, the other thing we were trying to do was to introduce the careers, and that was also successful. They knew when they went into middle school and high school that there were going to be 3 different pathways for them to choose. Now, as far as our teachers are concerned, there was a lot of increased collaboration because STEM supported essential standards for math, for language arts, and they were able to, STEM teachers were able to offer assistance in helping the general education teachers increase certain standards, or to reteach certain standards, or to pre-teach certain standards to help them with their understanding in the general education classroom. So the teachers also noticed because of that in the classrooms, they were getting more student engagement. So it was just kind of fulfilling all those things that we were looking for in a curriculum.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Definitely hearing about that high engagement that students were looking for and the guidance that it provided teachers is so incredible. Drew, has engagement been an impact on your end as well, or how have you seen things also transition with the use of PLTW?
Yeah, absolutely. High level engagement, the hands-on skills that students are getting. For us, it was the inquiry-based process of the different modules that students start with good questions, they get better questions, they hear from their peers, and then they get the best questions out there and multiple ways to solve real-world problems among their peers has been at a high level. It builds kind of that grit and perseverance There's more than one way to get it right. And I think in education, we often hear kids, just tell me how to do it. Well, we're telling you how to think, or we're teaching you how to think, and know that there's multiple ways of getting there. So highlights for our kids, as I said earlier, was the coding, computer science, engineering, architecture as a profession. What does that look like, sound like, feel like in our community? The connections to ELA. One of the modules we do is animated story time. So we're bringing in that literacy component where they're writing first before they get to block coding and telling the story with the technology. And just computational thinking, being able for kids to figure things out in steps and unpack it has been at a high level of engagement for us. For our teachers, Project Lead the Way offers world-class professional development. It's not a here you go, good luck, have at it. It's we're going to train, we're going to teach, but then there's also a community of learners that are in similar modules doing Launch, Gateway, or high school applications that you can come back to. So it's a network, it's a process for our teachers, and our teachers that have taught in those areas, much like Jennifer's group, were electives. But at the K-5 level, our teachers push in to the elective space into our STEAM classrooms, and we raise their level of learning as well, the things that they can bring back and take to their general ed classroom. So those are some of the highlights for students, and also for our staff with using Project Lead the Way.
Thank you for sharing that, Drew. It's really exciting to hear how it expanded across as well. Tanji, I'd love to just thinking about all the awesomeness that happened in your classroom. Can you share a bit about the feedback you've received from parents about the learning that has gone on within your classroom?
Absolutely, and thank you again. It's kind of calmed down in our building now, so I'm really excited about that. But my parents are really excited, even now, because the connection was made in the classroom, and now we've kind of taken STEM out, so those students now participate on the weekend in our STEM program. And so the parents are always ran like, what are they doing? Parents saw those immediate changes within the students thinking, students' ability. I have students that want, one of my little babies, he wants to be a pilot now because of our award-winning activity, PLTW, We Built Model Airplanes, and going through that process, being video. So it really empowered our kids. And now I've taken that program from my old district, brought it to the new district, and kind of mimicked the same thing. Started off with third graders with little experience in science, low readers. I've had kids to make 6.9 jumps. Parents are saying, hey, I want their kids in the class next year. Being able to make those kids grow. So I have an opportunity this year to include more teachers. And I love what Drew said about the professional development, because I think that's what made me comfortable as a teacher. I was like, oh, the PD is right here. It's embedded. Even the vocabulary and almost everything that I needed and wanted to be able to do, I was able to do it through PLTW. So I call myself like a kid in a candy store. It's like, where do I begin and what do I do with this? And to see my kids always engaged, never in trouble, always engaged, and to watch their reading levels and math just soar. And we're February? By October, my students had made a 6.9 leap in reading. And I knew, looking at the date, I'm telling my principal, I'm like, okay, it's not me. There's no way, because I can't teach them that much from August to October. So it's like, what are you doing? And so that curiosity came. And so now I have my colleagues in my classroom like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Can you show me how to do that? And taking some little science, something as simple as blowing balloons, and just getting them involved with the activity. So, and my students love it, and the parents love it. They're always here
Thank you for
asking me more about it.
Thank you for sharing that, Tanji. It's incredible to hear how parents are directly connecting what's happening inside the classroom to the growth of their own students, and then how it's continuing to spread across your building, and how you're leading that way. No pun intended, leading that way inside of your school building. Let's continue thinking about some more of these impacts around students and connecting them straight into our math and language skills. Drew, can you talk about the impact you've seen for students a little bit with those math and language skills? You kind of hinted at them a little bit before, but I'd love for a little bit more detail on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just the cross-curricular aspects of it. As students are working in their launch journals, they don't understand. They might not realize that they are writing with purpose, but they are. As they do Rosie's runtime, different activities, they are sharing what computational thinking is and writing it out and talking with others. So I think the embedded literacy components as we read different things collaboratively as a group or from the teacher, there's that literacy component as well. And it's really the academic vocab around STEAM principles as we talk computational thinking, as we talk coding, as we talk engineering and architecture. Those might not be words or thoughts that students have in other areas, but the embeddedness with literacy and writing makes it very high level. And like I said, kids probably don't understand that they're sharpening those other skills. Or as Tanji said, it's part of the reading score game that they are now on task because it's something that they are engaged with and they want to learn more. And our kids are inquisitive, right? And we give them opportunities to ask a lot of great questions around topics that are new to them, and then provide the structure of journaling, writing, coming out with the product, or writing a story. It helps that cross-curricular aspect. So it hits the marks of what we're looking for, not only from science and technology, but that ELA, that reading and writing and speaking with purpose of our district goals.
Thank you, Drew, for sharing a little bit more about how it definitely hits that mark on those different platforms that you all were looking for. Jennifer, I'd love for you to share with me just a little bit about how your program has grown from that first year of implementation to now. I know you have a very awesome story with that one.
So again, Project Lead the Way didn't start in launch for our district. It started with high school and it trickled down. Again, because of the need for having the problem solving and critical thinking skills and understanding the pathways into middle and high school and STEM careers. But we started with one STEM teacher in every classroom, and I think we initially got like a robot and a couple of modules, and our executive elementary director said, there were 28 of us. It's your baby, make it what you will. And we were just so blessed to have such a connection with all of these teachers that we really took it and ran with it. We did a lot of work with it, a lot of curriculum work with it. So 6 years later, fast forward, we have 31 teachers in launch. We have 9 lead teachers in launch. And every one of our launch teachers has every module that they can present to the children. And we have 2 new elementary schools opening up next year. And I just placed the order for them to be completely matched to all the other elementary schools. So we have grown from let's just see what we can do to we have the full outfit, and it fits very well.
It's so incredible to hear how it's that what I usually say to someone who's new coming on to PLTW is like, we're going to crawl before we walk. But to hear that right is the way, and it can lead you to such a robust program with incredible outcomes on the end is amazing. I want to thank you all for joining us for our time today. I know we got cut off just a little short, but everything that you've shared is super impactful for others to hear and really makes a difference in the ways that others are considering implementing their program. So thank you again so much again. So one of the best ways to find out about a PLTW classroom is to actually visit a PLTW classroom and to see the students and teachers in action. Since we aren't able to physically take you into a classroom like the one that each of our panelists have described today, we wanted to provide you with the next best thing, which is a sneak peek at what your classroom can be.
probably the first feedback I got from our teachers when we rolled it out in one of our summer programs years ago was, wow, this was really fun.
They are so happy every time we're going to start a project that made the class more interested, you know, because when you have all of them engaged, you're going to have an easy day.
Getting the kids to clean up on time is a surprising struggle because they just don't want to stop. They want to keep going. I think if you are interested in hands-on projects, things that are more engaging, there's no reason to not do this.
The hands-on learning goes right along with what we want to do here at Forest Glen, and it really continues that for teachers. It helps them to see how can I incorporate different subject areas into one and make it very active learning.
Every time we're going to make a project, they get so excited and very involved.
I very much have this let's break the process down approach. And I like to say, okay, well, here are materials, here's our question. What are we asking here? And what kind of end result do we want? The kids are very capable of doing big, large projects because we're being so specific with what gets brought out each week that they can really have the time to digest it.
Project Lead the Way is going to help them to think beyond, you know, to use their thinking to solve problems, and it's going to help them, you know, to have better outcomes even in other subjects.
I noticed the kids becoming more observant. I noticed them also being filled with a lot more confidence. If we had an entire generation of students that knew that it was okay to try and try again, and that your failures aren't actually failures, they are learning opportunities. We are here to learn, to practice, to then make it better. To be given permission to do that is lovely. The selling point for me is that it is a central hub for a lot of information that is age appropriate, detail appropriate, laid out in a way that's accessible for teachers and students. So when you're thinking about, well, what in the world am I going to teach my students? Well, you have your whole year laid out for you right there. With the core training experience for Project Lead the Way, I liked that you had that permission to try it and fail. And so it's exactly what your students are going to be going through. So it allows you to really empathize with the process there. And you can tell the kids, oh, that's exactly what I did when I was learning.
These certainly are active hands-on classrooms where teachers guide students to their own discovery and confidence. Because educators want to find the schools in their area that are implementing PLTW for their students' greater engagement and success, we have a school locator on our website. We're adding that link to the chat. We just heard from our panelists how they have seen firsthand the way that PLTW has transformed the learning and teaching at their schools. But the first step in that transformation process is in creating a strategic plan. And part of that plan is having a detailed view of the required investments and to identify the funding sources that you can use to support your program. The investment in PLTW programs may vary, but each program includes investments in 3 categories: participation fees, professional development, and equipment and supplies. The participation fee is an annual fee that covers all of the curriculum access and software rights for your PLTW programs. To be able to teach one of our courses, a teacher must be trained by PLTW in our core training experience, which you have heard a little bit back about from one of our panelists. And lastly, our curriculum is project-based and very hands-on. So there are some equipment and supplies that you will need for your implementation. So now that you know more about the investments needed, let's talk about some funding opportunities to help you grow your programs. Every year, we have a wide variety of PLTW grants available for all of the different PLTW programs. We have grants for brand new programs as well as program expansion. These PLTW grants are made possible by our partnerships with leading organizations across the country. In 2024, PLTW provided 1,619 grants across the country, totaling $15.6 million awarded. And this year, we have more grants available to schools than ever before. Please check out our grant opportunity webpage to find out more and schedule a meeting with your local PLTW team member. We are ready and willing to find out more about your district's vision and help you with your grant application. Through these grants, PLTW will partner with your school and district to help you throughout your PLTW implementation journey and beyond. Applying for PLTW grants is easy through our simple application process located in your My PLTW account. And if you don't already have one, you can create this account quickly and easily on our website. We award grants on a rolling basis from July 1st to June 30th, so schools may submit applications annually. PLTW keeps applications on file until June 30th of each year. So we may consider schools for more than one grant opportunity throughout the funding cycle. Our PLTW grant opportunities are amazing, and especially this year, and we encourage everyone to apply. But in addition to grant funds, there are other federal funding options to help you grow your PLTW programs. To understand more about the curriculum, I want to be sure you know about our evidence papers, one for each grade band, which enable you to dive deeper into the structure of our evidence-based curriculum, learn about our unique problem-based learning approach, and review the research supporting the positive impact PLTW has on student achievement. You can download these resources from our website, or the link has been placed in the chat for you to locate them there. And besides PLTW grants, there are several funding opportunities for you to utilize. To help you break down and compare the various funding options, we have created a funding side-by-side resource that is available on our website. This will help you see what federal funds are available, which ones can be used for which one of our 3 investment areas. And you're probably also wondering, then where do I start? We are happy to support you with next steps. We recommend that you connect with a PLTW team member to discuss any questions that you have. You can visit pltw.org on our PLTW launch page. You can use the range of resources like science standards, crosswalks, module descriptions, and the program overview to help you plan your implementation. You can also read blog stories about how other schools have unlocked student potential with PLTW, and also be sure to apply for grant funding at mypltw.org. Now, I want to say thank you for those that were joining us today. In the coming week, you'll receive an email with a recording of this webinar and additional resources to address any questions you still may have. If you'd like to discuss your implementation plan one-on-one, you can reach out to the PLTW Solutions Center at the number and email address located that on our slide. And this contact information will also be in the follow-up email as well. If there are any questions, we're more than happy to take questions today. If there are not, again, thank you so much for joining us today for PLTW in Action.